The exam hall was silent except for the scratching of pencils. Ethan stared at the first question. For a moment, his mind went blank. The fear came rushing back. What if he failed? What if all those evenings in the library weren't enough? What if he disappointed everyone? Then he heard her voice in his memory. It's just another set of problems, one step at a time. He took a slow breath, focused on the first equation, and suddenly it looked familiar, not because he'd memorized it, but because he understood. I'd remembered how Lila had drawn a simple diagram on the side of the page. He remembered her saying, "Always look for the pattern first. The answer usually hides there." So he did, and the answer appeared. One problem became two. Two became five. Five became 10 for the first time. He wasn't racing the clock in panic. He was solving. Calmly, step by step. When the final bell rang, Ethan set his pencil down and leaned back. He didn't know if he'd scored the highest mark, but he knew one thing for sure. He hadn't failed, and that was because of her 3 days later. The results were posted. Students crowded around the notice board. Pushing and shouting, Ethan stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart pounding. He didn't want to look, not yet, but then someone shouted, "Top score in the city." Another voice followed, "Who is it?" Ethan swallowed and stepped closer. He scanned the list name after name, and then first place. Ethan Clarke. His breath caught. He blinked, looked again. It was still there. First place in the entire city. His hands started shaking. "I passed," he whispered, then louder, almost laughing, almost crying. "I passed." He turned and ran out of the school, down the street, across the intersection, all the way to the library. He burst through the doors, breathless, but the corner table was empty. The librarian looked up. "Can I help you? Have you seen Lila?" he asked. She shook her head gently. "Not in a few days." The joy in his chest suddenly felt heavy. He stepped back outside, staring at the empty stone steps. She should have been there. She deserved to hear the news. She deserved to know what she'd done that evening. Ethan told his father everything. About the library, about the study sessions, about the quiet girl who'd helped him when no one else could. "She's the reason I passed," Ethan said. "You should meet her." His father listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "What did you say her name was?" he asked. "Lila Hale." Ethan replied. The fork in his father's hand froze midair. "Hale?" he repeated. "Yes, why?" His father's eyes narrowed slightly. "Bring me to this library tomorrow," he said. "I'd like to meet her." The next afternoon, Ethan spotted Lila sitting on the steps again. Relief washed over him. "There you are," he said, rushing over. "I've been looking everywhere." She looked up, surprised. "You have?" "I passed," he said, grinning. "First in the city." Her face lit up. "Really?" she said. He nodded. "You did it. Lila, you helped me do it." She shook her head gently. "You did the work." Just then, Ethan's father approached, a tall man in a dark suit, carrying a leather briefcase. "Lila," Ethan said, "this is my dad. I told him all about you." She stood politely. "Nice to meet you, sir." But the moment his father looked at her face, something changed. His eyes moved to her backpack, then to the envelope. Sticking slightly out of the front pocket, the gold crest was visible. His expression turned serious. "Where did you get that envelope?" he asked. Lila's fingers instinctively tightened around the strap of her backpack. "They're mine," she said quietly. He stepped closer. "May I see them?" She hesitated for a long moment. She said nothing. Then she slowly pulled out the envelope and handed it to him. He opened it. Carefully, his eyes scanned the documents, and with each page his expression grew more shocked. This can't be," he whispered. Ethan frowned. "What is it?" His father looked up at Lila. "Do you know what these papers are?" he asked gently. She nodded. "They prove who I am." He swallowed. "These documents show that you are the sole heir to Marcus Hale's estate." Ethan's eyes widened. "The billionaire?" He said Lila didn't answer. She just stood there, quietly, as if the truth was something she'd been carrying alone for far too long. Within days, everything changed. Ethan's father reopened the old case. He contacted the courts, the banks, the company's board of directors, and as the investigation unfolded, the truth came out piece by piece. Victor had forged signatures, hidden accounts falsely, declared Lila missing, all to gain control of the fortune, but the documents she'd protected in her backpack were undeniable. Case moved quickly, too quickly for Victor to cover his tracks. Within weeks, he was arrested for fraud. The news spread across the city. Headlines filled the papers. Billionaire heiress found living homeless. Uncle arrested in massive inheritance scam. But inside the courtroom, none of that mattered to Lila. She just stood quietly beside the lawyer, listening. At 17, the court granted her early access to her inheritance. Not all of it, but enough to ensure her safety, education, and future. A trusted guardian was appointed, someone chosen by the court, not by her uncle. For the first time in 2 years, Lila had a real home again, a warm bed, clean clothes, a desk by the window. But the biggest change wasn't the house. It was the feeling inside her chest, the feeling that she was no longer just surviving. She was living. A week after the trial, Ethan waited outside the courthouse when Lila stepped out. The sunlight caught her face. She looked different, not because of the clothes of the car waiting for her, but because her shoulders were no longer tense. Her eyes looked lighter. He walked up to her, smiling. "You helped me when you had nothing," he said. She looked up at the bright sky. The clouds were drifting apart, letting the sun through. "Kindness always finds its way back," she said softly. Months later, the community library looked exactly the same glass doors, same stone steps. But one evening, something was different. A small group of students sat around a table inside, and at the center of them was Lila. She was explaining a math problem, just like she used to with Ethan. Her voice was calm, clear, gentle. "And that's why the equation balances," she said. Finishing the explanation, one of the younger students grinned. "Oh, that actually makes sense now." Lila smiled. Outside the window, the streetlight flickered on the same warm glow that once helped her read on cold nights. But now, instead of sitting alone on the steps, she was inside, helping others. The kindness she gave away for free had come full circle. This story shows how one act of kindness can change everything. What's one way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your commitment in the comments.